A YouTuber named Ami in a Hellcat will spend over 5 years in prison and have to pay more than $30 million because of his YouTube channel. How? Well, we're going to talk about that today, and I promise you, it's some detective work right out of a movie. It really goes to show that sometimes YouTube can be the downfall of some pretty powerful people. So who is Ami in a Hellcat? Well, simply put, he's a flexer. You remember little Tay throwing around $100 bills like it was nothing and kicking sports cars? She's got nothing on Ami. Rice Gum, who I think is literally only famous because he was able to flex fancy watches and cars? Nothing on Ami. Ami in a Hellcat is a flexing channel unlike any other I've seen before. I mean, just look at all these cars. And a quick scroll through his channel shows a lot more of them. All of them, of course, probably worth more than 3 of the car that you're driving. And unlike a lot of people these days, Ami's wealth is real, not fake. Those cars aren't rented, like the one your favorite Instagram model is posing on. He owns those. This guy is rich, like way too rich for a YouTuber. And that's where his problems started. You see, for years now, the IRS and FBI and probably every other 3-letter agency has been watching social media. Of course, you say, they're looking out for crimes, which they are. But being rich isn't a crime. What they're looking for is wealth. Wealth on people who shouldn't be so wealthy. And when they find someone like that, posting videos on YouTube or photos on Instagram with stuff worth way more than their theoretical tax bracket, they start to look a little closer at you. This has led to all sorts of tax evasion charges for people when their dumb kid posts photos with $100 bills or in the Lambo that the government doesn't know you have. Seriously, if you've got ill-gotten gains and you're posting yourself all over the internet, you're self-snitching. Hey guys, just interrupting to ask you to subscribe. It really helps me out a lot, thanks. Now back to the video. Anyway, seeing the wealth that Ami had amassed, one has to wonder how he got it, right? Well, according to the government, Ami was running one of the most brazen and successful cable TV piracy scams ever prosecuted by the US government. That's right, YouTube was a side gig apparently. You see, Ami was, despite his humble upbringing, which by the way sounds crazy according to Inquirer.com, he was one of 38 children and was constantly between foster care and relatives' houses. Ami managed to become one of the richest stealth tech CEOs to ever exist. Now, I don't mean stealth as in tech that hides things, but rather that he hid his business. Granted, not very well considering how much of his wealth he was putting online. The best way I can think of to describe what he was doing is to ask, have you ever seen those Game Boy or DS cartridges for sale? They come with like 1,001 games on them. Not the scam ones either that are full of third-party copyright-free shovelware. I'm talking the real deal, with all sorts of real popular games on it. Well, Ami was doing that, but with TV shows and movies, as far as I can tell. He built a business in something called IPTV services, or Internet Protocol Television, which sounds fine, right? Like just TV, but over the internet, and fairly cheap, I think too. Though, I couldn't find exact prices for this video. Basically, it seems like you bought this little Chromecast-like dongle that you plugged into your TV and used just like a Roku or a Chromecast. Sounds fine, right? I mean, Roku and Google can do it, why can't Ami? Well, it seems like Ami forgot to deal with a little thing called copyright law. He was charged with and convicted of piracy. Basically, he was streaming out hundreds or more live TV channels, movies, TV shows, and even pay-per-view events. All for way cheaper than you could get it from the cable company. And I guess he didn't buy the rights to these things, he just used them. Which is what people in the copyright law field call a big fuck you wucky. And that's underplaying it. Copyright lawyers are like the most bloodthirsty lawyers on the planet, and for good reason. They're paid very well. Let's not forget way back in 2010 when a single mother downloaded some music illegally and the music industry went after her for $62,500 per song she downloaded, to a total of $1.5 million. And she wasn't sharing it the way Ami was. Now, of course, Ami argued in court that his business, which went by names like Gears TV and Reloaded TV, operated in a legal gray area, and that nothing he did was illegal, as he had paid for the content that he was then pirating. In one video on his channel, he pretty much said that what he did isn't much different from having people over to watch a pay-per-view MMA fight or something. And well, he's not exactly wrong in my opinion. I can see where he's coming from, but the law does not treat it that way. And that's unfortunate because Ami had a really good business going. Allegedly, one of the lawyers for the Justice Department said that Ami had made more than virtually every other copyright defendant they'd ever seen, which is both high condemnation, but also high praise. I honestly don't know how he got away with it for so long, but hey, the long arm of the law moves slow. What is different about this case though is that this guy seems to be a genuine nice dude. From everything I read about him, he literally came from nothing and pretty much had a classic rags to riches story. Honestly, Ami isn't that much different from Mark Zuckerberg, and I mean that unironically. Had he just put his talent in a different direction, he could have done great things. It seems like the judge thought so as well, since he had been originally facing over 500 years in prison, which was later reduced to a little over 25 years the judge only sentenced him to 5 years in jail. Well, plus the 30 million in fines, restitution, and unpaid taxes. Which, I mean, come on man, you gotta pay your taxes. Honestly, tax evasion is what brings down all big criminal enterprises. So I mean, if you're doing something bad, you might as well tell the IRS and hope they don't snitch. Cause if there's one thing you really don't want to get in between, it's the government and the percentage of your money they arbitrarily feel entitled to. I joke, but seriously, pay your taxes, kings, and don't end up like Ami. I felt like I had to make this video because I thought it was kind of cool to see someone like Ami built a big criminal enterprise and flexed his wealth on YouTube, and no one really questioned it for way longer than they should have. Being an 800,000 subscriber channel might pay well, but it doesn't pay that well. Even a lot of the other flexing YouTubers rent their watches and their Lambos. Let's not forget Lil Tay flexing on the Lambo of her mom's boss. What do you guys think about this entire situation? I'm glad the dude only got 5 years. On one hand, because he's got kids, and I can't imagine how bad it would be to be away from them for that long. And on the other hand, I really want to see what he does when he gets out. Does he go back to hitting the grind and making some of his fortune back? We'll have to wait and see. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Have a great day, and God bless you.